Hi, Alice here, and I'm Rolf. My name's Bonnie Rolf, and Bonnie has graciously agreed to share with us how she started her succulent garden in her home.
I have gone out to Arizona several times to visit a friend. And when I came back, I bought myself a little souvenir cactus garden. And it did very well. And I lost it when my house burned, but I still kept the interest for it. I have purchased some succulents, things that I like, and I'm getting used to them. I'm playing with them. I moved their location. I changed the amount of water I give them, but they're living for me. And houseplants don't usually live for me. So succulents is the way for me to go.
How long ago was this?
The ones I have now, I've had for a little longer than a year. And they're still alive, and I'm so happy.
And when you started with cacti, and I know there's some confusion or people talk about, well, cacti not really a succulent and succulents are different. And I know that some places report cacti and succulent in the same grouping because both are low water requirement. They live in harsh conditions. What we're going to focus on today would be the succulent. Anything else? Any tips that you would want to share before we get started?
Buy what you like. I call it we're growing up together, my succulents, and we're growing together. But there's so many different varieties, and I don't know any of their proper names, of a few maybe. I just do it by what appeals to me visually.
When you shop for your succulent, where do you go?
Any nursery that I've been to in this area has a wide variety of succulents. Nobles has a great selection of succulents. Really, I mean, you can buy them anywhere. You can buy them in the grocery store. Just pick up the ones you like and the more different ones, I think, and just put them in the sun. They can't stand a really heavy concentrate all day long. That was when I noticed mine were starting to brown around the edges a little bit and kind of look limp and withered. So I moved them back a little bit, but I moved them around, and I have some right now that need to be transplanted into bigger pots because they've gotten leggy or just need some more attention.
What was the first succulent that you started with?
Hens and chickens.
Where did you plant them?
The first time I planted them was in Maine, and I planted them outside. And they are hardy. Maine has some very cold, long, severe winters, and I would just bank them with a bunch of leaves and stuff, and then uncover them in the spring. And they did very well, but to me, they were almost invasive. I didn't want them to take over the garden I had them in. I wanted them to just be a small amount. You can, of course, dig them up, separate them, put them in little pots, pass them out to all your friends. But then you're known almost like the zucchini lady. You know, that really because every time we see somebody, you're trying to give them a succulent.
When you moved here to North Florida, did you bring any of them with you?
No, we brought nothing with us, actually. We sold everything, just about everything we had, and came down, and it was like starting over a brand new life. But I did buy some and plant them, and they did very, very well down here because we might get a cold spell for a little while, but nothing like a Maine winter when they really just rest over the winter.
So that's a real good one for a beginner to start with.
Yes.
Hens and chickens. Anything else
Sorry.
in terms of successes and lessons learned before we take a tour of your succulent garden?
I'm still trying, pick off a little piece here and there and just put it in the dirt and see if I can root it. And I haven't had luck with that. I just think if there's something that you like, it's worth trying. And they're much more expensive than they used to be, but they're still reasonably priced.
So it looks like you have several little garden areas.
Yes, little
back here.
spot.
And this area, what direction are we facing here when I look out the windows?
That would be east.
This is a nice bright light area, which I know succulents like. You're getting the morning sun until about what time?
About noon, and then it goes over and hits the other side of the house.
It stays nice and bright because we're in the afternoon. I know that succulents like it bright.
Right.
They don't want direct sun, hot sun, but they do like bright light.
This is what's left of my Christmas cactus. I had a lot more of these, but I gave a lot away as gifts at Christmas time. And these all started with a single little stem. This one, he's got some pink. He's got some orange. It probably will look more pink when it opens up. This one is a white or a yellow. I've got a yellow one back here. This one has decided not to do anything quite yet, and this one's still quite young, so it hasn't really done anything yet. I did some of them up in the cups that they came in. I've transplanted them into the bigger pots.
And what kind of potting soil do
I
you
just
use?
use a generic, regular mixed potting soil. I don't buy a succulent mix or a special mix for them at all. Like I said, if you're going to live with me, you got to be tough.
The next garden, which is over here.
This one was a housewarming gift when I moved into this house. It had just the one colored bulb on it. As you can see, it has a lot of babies now.
And what is this?
From a gas company I went to with a friend to pay a bill. This was a brilliant, beautiful cactus. String of pearls back here.
It makes that nice cascade.
Yes, and I love to put different ones together. You know, this was more like a ground cover one, a leafier one. And then this one I call the Shrek plant because it looks like Shrek ears to me.
This one here is the donkey tail.
Yes.
And you can see the thick
Pods almost, I call them.
leaf. With succulents, that's their storage for water. Many of them have thick stems, fleshy stems, or thick, fleshy leaves. And some of them, like this plant, have a thick stem and thick leaves. That's all water storage. And that's how they can go sometimes a couple of months or more without any water at all. They're such a low water plant.
This I've put together myself. I started with little jade plants. I have 3 of
Let's
those.
see, they're over here.
This is a jade, and this one, and this one. I'm looking for plants in the store. If you can look for the ones that have 2 or 3 separate in one container, then you can separate them and put them in different areas when you get them home. And then these 2 cactuses were the same. These 2 were the same. And then these little pod ones were 3 in the same pot. And he's hiding underneath the jade plant. And I separated those and put them in the pot. There's also babies all the way around this one.
So when you're talking about the little ones, are they the little cactus back
Right,
here?
right. Looks like a little
Right.
tiny bunch of broccoli going right here.
Oh, those.
Yeah, that's the baby that I stuck in there. And there's another one over here, and it looks almost like a little flower. You can pick off any of these little pods, I call them, and just stick it in the dirt. I will just stick him in there, and he might take off.
And you just leave it alone. This is a really nice combo that you've put together.
I love that, the combination of the different ones in that pot.
I love the contrasting color with
Yes.
that behind.
My latest treasure is my Hindu rope plant. I just love it. It's just different, curly, and it looks like you could eat it. It looks like it should be a salad.
This plant is actually a Hoya. They have a lot of varieties now because this plant is becoming very, very popular. When we had our Madison Garden Club meeting, there were several varieties of Hoyas, and this was the only one, and you snatched it right up.
Before anyone else could get to it, I said, that one's mine. This is what I mean by separate sections. You can separate this into like 2 or 3 separate plants. I'll probably break this piece right here off and put it in something else and try them in a couple different locations. And then whichever one does the best, I'll know that's where it wants to live.
Bonnie was showing me how she potted this. With succulents, it's very important that they don't get root rot. from overwatering or from having standing water.
This is just what I call a drop in, and it's in the pot with the holes in the bottom. Good drainage, and then I just plunk that down in this pot that doesn't have any holes.
What's recommended is that research each of the succulents to see what their water requirements are. But when you water it, wait 5 minutes and then lift the pot out. If there's any water in the bottom, discard that so that the plant does not sit in any kind of water, because these plants come from hostile, arid conditions. And if they have a lot of water, like wet soil, or even the water in at the bottom of the pot, it's easy for the roots to develop root rot. And when that happens, your plant's going to die. The other thing that is important is consider either getting a soil that's already prepared for succulents, because they are used to a more sandy soil. You can buy bags of play sand and mix it with the potting soil, 1 part soil to 1 part sand. And that provides a medium that's more like the natural medium where these succulents are found in nature. It also improves the drainage of the soil. In sandy soil, the water just runs through because the particles are large and the water doesn't stay. That's what you want for your succulents. As far as fertilizer goes, again, research each of your plants. Many garden centers or online, you can find books on succulents, and they have pictures so you can identify your plants, because they're not always labeled when you buy them. For example, I was at the garden center yesterday and I was looking at a whole tray full of different kinds of succulents. I picked up the little pots. They were just 2-inch tiny pots, and all it said was succulent. I didn't know what kind of species it was, and they were all different. Research and find out what each of your plants needs as far as the water requirements and fertilization. A lot of the succulents fertilize like 3 or 4 times a year, and do that during their growing season, which would be in spring through beginning of fall. You want to fertilize during active growth. Cactus, on the other hand, many of them only require fertilizing once or maybe twice a year during their growing season. When you have different plants in a pot, you might have different watering requirements and different fertilization. All of the plants that are similar in terms of fertilization and water and light needs together, so that you don't inadvertently damage one because you've watered too much. I love how Bonnie has done the small pots, mini gardens within a garden. What I'd like to do is putting together a variety of succulents. Bonnie, come with me and we'll go shopping and see what we come up with. So stay tuned.
Garden yay!
Yes, that's right. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed our mini tour of Bonnie's indoor succulent garden. You can see how simple and easy it is. And if you're interested, you can start one too. I love this sign that she has in one of her planters. It says, "Please leave nothing but your footprints." So important, especially with succulents, because there are what we call poachers going out into areas all over, because succulents grow in the Americas, they grow in Africa and other places, and they are digging up plants from the wild. So please, when you're out hiking, just leave your footprints and don't go with a succulent. And beware if you are buying online and there's some exotic succulent available and you don't know the people and you can't vet them as actual growers, be cautious because many times these are people who are selling plants that have been illegally obtained. If you have a comment, please leave it below. Love to hear from you. And if you're interested in more videos, there's some you might want to check out. And if you've not subscribed, please subscribe. Garden Yay! And don't forget, it's easy to grow a succulent.